Hi guys, welcome to Office Blokes React. I am Office Bloke Dave.
I'm Office Bloke Mike.
Office Bloke Daz.
Collectively, we are chirpy on a Monday afternoon.
Buzzing.
We're
Buzzing like all your women's
sock drawers.
sock drawers.
Yeah, good save. Two of the Office Blokes went out for lunch today and had a couple of pints. One didn't. So,
Couple?
Yeah, a couple of Office Blokes. Three.
Couple of pints.
Yeah. Couple of pints?
More than a couple, wasn't it?
Three. You've always got to play it down a little bit. Anyway, so that's why we're sleepy on a Monday afternoon.
Yeah.
But we're going to watch a video that is about MS13. We did America's Top 10 Deadliest Gangs the other day, didn't we? And
Yeah.
We did.
it wasn't the best video, really.
No.
It didn't give us much to go off on any of the gangs.
Yeah, it was saying what they thought the worst gangs were, but it wasn't sort of any
Was this number one?
sort of.
No. I know it's one of the most, I think it's one of the biggest in the States. But it's the Gaylords that are the number one, aren't they?
Oh, would they?
Yeah, Gaylords for the win.
Stab you.
Meat sword you in the face. Right then, inside the life of MS13's Deadliest Hitmen. Let's do it.
For 12 years, El Salvador was ravaged by a bloody and indiscriminate civil war.
It's Ross Kemp.
Is it?
Yeah.
Was it?
Yeah,
Yeah.
it did sound like him actually. Now you mentioned
Yeah.
it. Yeah.
It's like they've just slowed it down ever so
Yeah.
slightly.
Yeah.
Right.
But MS13 is particularly violent.
That's not
They
Ross
don't like
Kemp.
shooting
No.
people because it's too quick, it's too fast.
Yeah, it's not the Mexican, Colombian, or Italian mafias who are the most brutal. You may be surprised to hear it's a Honduras and El Salvador gang
believe
called
that.
MS13, or Mara Salvatrucha. How did they grow from a tiny street gang into one of the world's most feared organized crime groups? And who are the terrifying hitmen behind this horror show? This is the full story of MS13 and its deadly hitmen. I know I said Honduras and El Salvador, but the MS13 gang actually began in the barrios of Los Angeles during the 1980s. You see, horrible civil war was ravaging El Salvador, and many of its inhabitants fled the bloodshed. It was in LA that El Salvador immigrants met other immigrants from Honduras, Guatemala, and Mexico. Soon, they formed a Mara Salvatrucha. Mara is slang for gang. Salva stands for El Salvador, and Trucha means street gang. What about the 13? Well, that's the position of the letter M in the alphabet, but the MS13 was never a peaceful community of Hispanic immigrants, watching each other's backs. They soon got a reputation for extreme violence and machete murders. According to the FBI, the MS13 gang has now spread to 46 states. Here's a dark twist. The MS13 stays incredibly brutal by recruiting poor, vulnerable teens from backgrounds of petty crime and narcotics addiction. It's heartbreaking to think that many teens end up in places like MS13 instead of getting the help and support they need to overcome their tough childhood. And to join the MS13, no matter your age, you're required to be jumped in, aka subjected to a vicious 13-second beating. Then there's a getting wet, carrying out a crime, usually a murder for the gang. Sadly, it's very hard for MS13 members to quit. They're branded for life with huge tattoos on their chest, and so if they ever flee, they can easily be found, identified, and killed. And you don't want to get killed by the MS13. As the MS13 expanded, it reached its home countries of El Salvador and Honduras.
We're at the Central Criminal Courts for San Salvador. That's these buildings, and then over there behind us there's the morgue. And that's really the two ways out for an awful lot of gang members. They're either brought here and then go on to jail, or they're brought here dead.
After the El Salvador Civil War ended, another war started between the MS13 and the 18th Street Gang. And it was so violent that virtually no difference was felt from the Civil War. Ernesto Miranda, or Smokey. Smokey started out as a soldier in the bloody Civil War. Then he fled to Los Angeles, where he found himself in the middle of street gang wars. So he rallied fellow El Salvador immigrants and founded the MS13. Smokey was one of the people who raised the MS13 gang to international threat status, from drug trafficking to prostitution, weapons stealing, and murder. He did it all. Of course, this got the FBI's attention. In 2004, he was deported to El Salvador. Initially, it seemed like a clean slate for Smokey. He began studying law and started a family, with a young daughter living under his roof. Smokey even became preoccupied with keeping keeping vulnerable teens out of the MS-13's hands. But age 38, Smokey was brutally killed, simply because he turned down an invitation to a fellow MS-13 member's prison release party. A senseless death explained only by the brutality he'd once imbued his sicarios with.
Wow.
I wouldn't mind betting that the invitation was for him to be killed anyway.
Possibly.
And he knew it, so...
Yeah, it's how they
brutal,
turn on each other, right? That's what happens.
Yeah. It's a scary world.
Dead end.
Yeah, some of these guys here, absolutely, you just won't mess about with, would you? That's all.
I think a lot of this gang stuff is, you see the older guys that are driving nice cars, they've got money, they've got the girls and stuff. You want a bit of that, and you'll get that for a couple of years, and then you're out of here, aren't you?
Exactly.
Jail or dead.
Yeah.
Denis Escobar is known as La Diablita, the Little Devil, but we'd be mistaken to associate every small woman with innocence and every burly, scruffy man with evil. In 2017, 5 boys posted themselves making gang signs on social media. They were just having a bit of drunken fun. They weren't part of any gang, but to the MS-13, this was a sign of rival gang members. They associated the boys with rivals and wanted them removed. Lenise was just a teenager when she started working for the MS-13 in Long Island. She was also the girlfriend of an MS-13 soldier, so she wanted to prove herself and do the initiation. Remember what that was? That's right, murdering someone for the gang. Lenise lured the boys to a park where several MS-13 members ambushed them. Lenise and a few others hacked the boys with machetes. Only one of the 5 survived. He recalls a blood-chilling night.
Under a full moon, running for my life, chased by gangsters shouting, "Hack him."
Lenise Escobar was eventually arrested and charged with murder, conspiracy to commit murder, aid of racketeering, and racketeering. He was still underage when she was charged. Shockingly, La Diablita pleaded not guilty, but on April 11, 2022, there was a verdict.
Right now at 5:30, a verdict today for a young woman accused of luring 4 men to their deaths at the hands of MS-13 gang members.
Our hearts go out to the families of the victims. We know that the verdict does not erase the pain you wake up with every day.
Lenise was found guilty of all charges. She will probably spend the rest of her life behind bars. But her family wants everyone to know Lenise is the classic MS-13 tragic story. She was a vulnerable teen groomed from an early age and pushed to do the unthinkable.
She was a young girl who had a difficult life. Not having a father, not having a mother, abused physically, mentally.
It's sad to know that some of MS-13's deadliest hitmen, or women, come from terrible backgrounds where violence is all they knew. Just before Christmas Day 2004, the Honduran government was thinking about reintroducing the death penalty in a discussion about tightening the grip on gang violence. But this only angered the MS-13 gang more, so they organized a mass killing. They stopped an intercity bus filled with women and children and rained fire on them. Whoever wasn't hit by the bullets was then killed from close up by MS-13 sicarios. At the top of the operation was Juan Bautista Jimenez, one of the MS-13's most prized hitmen. In the MS-13, the more brutal you are, the higher up the ranks you go. Jimenez had become such a feared name that authorities began a long and complicated operation to arrest him. In 2007, he was finally put behind bars. The news of his arrest caused a lot of uproar on the national news. This put MS-13 under the spotlight, and its leaders didn't like this. So Jimenez, a once prized army commander, was assassinated in prison by his own men, hung inside his cell. But they are less known MS-13 members, who have even more terrifying stories to tell. Juan kept his identity.
I think that was the thing I saw the other day that I was talking about.
Less known MS-13 members, who have even more terrifying.
Yeah.
Yeah,
What I saw was in El Salvador, and they were like, they had to bend over and run in a certain way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When we were saying,
Keep the heads down.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've seen that. What happens for you to ever think that's okay, like a bus full of women and children and stuff?
I know.
And it's, even the guys who are
Unbelievable.
part of it, and you think it's all about the brutal life and fear and everything, some of them must be stood there going, what are we doing?
But the more brutal, the higher up you go in the rankings.
Yeah.
Isn't it?
But then you get put in prison and assassinated. Like, it's just...
Well, if you get caught.
It's dog eat dog, isn't
It's
it?
if you get caught, isn't it?
It's just scary that people
If you go
go
the
along with
rankings,
that.
higher up the rankings you are for being more nutcase, then the more you get paid.
True.
The bigger the line share,
Yeah.
isn't it?
Yeah, it's just mad that morality has a price for some people, isn't
It's
it?
just absolutely unbelievable, that really is.
Terrifying stories to tell. Juan kept his identity a secret as he spoke about his past experiences with MS-13. After all, he would most likely get killed the minute he reveals who he is. Juan was only 18 when he was made to kill someone as an initiation ritual for the gang in Honduras. From that point onward, killing got easier and easier. He got desensitized to violence and started seeing it from the outside, almost like an out-of-body experience when he took a life. But that's not to say it didn't leave a mark on him. Once, Juan killed 3 people, then watched his fellow sicarios dismember them brutally. The sight was so horrifying that something clicked inside of his mind. He couldn't take it anymore. That's when he decided to flee Honduras, knowing the MS-13 would be on his trail for the rest of his life. Under a hidden identity and wearing lots of camouflage, Juan then talked to the media, spreading the word about the horrific crimes of MS-13 hitmen. In an interview he gave later, he said,
"When I killed the first person, I was nervous. I wanted to smoke lots of stuff. I thought it could have been me, my mom. But you have to do it for yourself as well, because you're already in the family, and you don't have a choice. You have to do what they tell you."
Yeah, if the hitmen got cold feet, they can't really pull out. You either flee and hope you don't get caught, or you get beaten, tortured, maybe even worse. Your family gets killed for it. Once you enter the horror network that MS-13 is, you can't really ever get out. Through nothing short of miracle, Juan did. And he chose to take an even greater risk by talking to the media about his former gang. What he revealed is simply blood-curdling, murder, rape, torture, and filming it to post it online. Similar to the brutal Jalisco New Generation cartel, the MS-13 makes a point out of spreading fear and panic. This way, they let people know that they are not to be messed with. And you want to know MS-13's motto? Kill, rape, control. Yeah, in 2017,
So that hitman gets to just have a new identity, and because he's a whistleblower now, and everything's all right, is it?
Yeah, he's done some
Bit
pretty,
wrong,
pretty
yeah.
horrific things himself there, hasn't he, I think? But
I think, let him talk to the media and then say,
There you go.
someone creep up behind him.
I'll just go, there you go, back into your neighbourhood.
yeah, could you
Let
imagine?
them deal with it.
Wow.
Yeah, it's convenient, isn't it, when a lot of people do a lot of horrible things and now they've had enough, and it's like, now I'm going to talk about it. You've done all those bad things.
Sure, he's tattooed the wazoo. Just put his name across his head.
I think that people should be marked in that sort of way,
Yeah.
so you know who you're dealing with.
MS-13 made international headlines twice. First, with the murder of 2 teenage girls. They were walking through the neighborhood in New York when they were butchered with a machete and a baseball bat
Jeez,
after a
New
minor
York.
dispute with an MS-13 hitman. The same month, 3 teenage girls in Houston were kidnapped, violated, and shot fatally. 2 MS-13 hitmen, Miguel Alvarez Flores and Diego Hernandez Rivera, were arrested for this. During their court hearing, they laughed, waved at the cameras, and showed complete defiance towards authority. Not just that, but it was clear that they had zero remorse for the horrific crime. This had nothing to do with the MS-13's illicit businesses or turf fights. It was brutality for brutality's sake, an enactment of the gang's terrifying motto. According to Juan, El Salvador has the highest homicide rate in the world just simply because the MS-13. They prey on women and children, those most vulnerable to brutal attacks. Sometimes, hitmen will burn a whole bus in broad daylight or butcher an entire family inside their home. Juan described one of the most gruesome murders he witnessed as an MS-13 hitman.
I saw one. They had cut the person into little pieces and put them in a box. MS-13 cuts them into 13 pieces. It's their symbol. I only heard the screams and all that, and how they killed them. It was so that people would know.
And how much did Juan make as an MS-13 hitman? 1,500 pesos, or 50 pounds a week. If he committed a murder for the gang, he could get a bonus, or new clothes or weapons. Under Donald Trump's presidency, the MS-13 was named a terrorist organization. We'll end this video with a tragic story. Miguel Angel Tobar was born in 1983 in El Salvador, in the midst of the horrible Civil War. Much like all MS-13 members, Miguel was recruited as a young teen to work for them. Aged 11, Miguel tried to murder his first victim, a man who had repeatedly violated his sister. 4 years later, he committed his first murder for his MS-13 initiation. Age 15, Miguel decapitated a teenage baker who was working for the 18 gang. During his time with MS-13, Miguel killed at least 50 people, each more brutally than the previous. Once he removed a victim's heart with his bare hands. Miguel and his men lured a man known as Caballo once he discovered he was a double agent, working for the MS-13 and the 18 street gang. In 2009, Miguel was approached by the police to help them solve some murders. Eventually, Miguel became a key witness for the Attorney General's office. He helped send more than 30 gang members to prison. The deal? The state promised to protect him from the MS-13 members and any gang members that would want him dead. But both the police and the Attorney General's office knew Miguel would be assassinated, and they didn't do much to protect him. On November 21st, 2014, Miguel was shot and killed by his former MS-13 friends. Miguel had spoken for 5 years about his imminent death. He was convinced someone would come for him soon. But when he told the authorities about this, they just said he was protected and he shouldn't worry. Was this an empty promise to a man they didn't think deserved protection? How many arrests could Miguel help with after killing 50 people or taking someone's heart out? Can an MS-13 hitman make up for his crimes? And just how guilty is a 15-year-old hitman taken from a vulnerable background and threatened into doing the unthinkable? What are your thoughts on the MS-13 gang? Let us know in the comments, and before you leave, don't forget to like, subscribe.
Interesting, isn't it?
Yeah.
You'd suit them tattoos, mate.
Pardon?
You'd suit them tattoos.
On
Do
your
you reckon?
face.
I'm sure, yeah. Yeah.
Mike's not allowed to join two gangs at the same time, though.
Yeah, he's in the absolute zeros, isn't he?
The absolute shit. Oh, and the gay lords.
Gay lords. Tough guy.
That question he asked at the end about how sort of culpable is a 15-year-old that's vulnerable, and then
Yeah.
I'd say very much so, if I'm being honest. I know it's horrible circumstances people come from, but
You know right from wrong.
you know right
Of course
from
you do,
wrong.
yeah. I mean, everyone knows right from wrong, don't they? They know what they should be doing and what they shouldn't be doing. There's absolutely no excuse for that. I mean, I don't feel sorry for them, but it's just sometimes the way they're recruited when they are young and they're vulnerable. Because obviously he was recruited when he was even younger, wasn't he? I think, or some of them were like 11 years old.
Abject poverty as well that they're coming from, and
Well,
there's just no way out.
Then they're getting money off these people. It's sort of, they just lure them in, don't they?
Especially when they start throwing around the big cash.
Yeah,
everyone's
absolutely,
like,
of course, yeah, bit of money in, yeah.
It's just absolutely ruthless, though.
Yeah,
sort of scary these gangs, aren't they?
So brutal, aren't they? That, I mean, some of the ways that they kill people.
Central America as well. It's the proper hotbed for it as well, isn't it?
It's
absolutely
a
unbelievable.
lot of it's to feed the drug habit in America, though, isn't it? A lot of it's over drugs. At the end of the
Probably
day.
a lot of it. I'm guessing a lot will be. Yeah.
What the answer to that is, I don't know. But it's fueled by the war on drugs, one way or another.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Yeah, terrible.
Hope you guys enjoyed that. Don't forget to like and subscribe. We'll catch you on the next one.
Cheers, guys.
Cheers.